Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mahesh Balasubramaniam. I'm the practice lead at Aon Assessment Solution. Thank you, ETHR World, for giving me this opportunity. It's my pleasure to be here today among such esteemed panel members and guests. So today I'm going to be discussing on a topic which is closing the future skill gap to drive business success. Let us jump right in. So we know many organizations are realigning their business models from an environment of economic and business uncertainty to thriving in a rapidly changing world. Many factors, including the pandemic, have accelerated technological and workforce changes that we have already witnessed. This means that the skills organizations need in their workforce to be successful in the future are changing. This, coupled with shared responsibility and vested interest organizations have in providing opportunities to develop future skills, organizations need to define the future skills that are critical for them, identify them in their workforce, and plan to upskill and reskill their employees to help bridge any gaps. So it is impossible for all employees to be current on their latest digital skills. 59% of HR leaders told us that their organization hasn't defined the set of skills they need for their digital transformation. Consider this. Three-quarters of nearly 1,500 global respondents recently told us they are improving on existing programs or adding new programs to identify current or future skill gaps as part of the implementation of future of work strategies. Meanwhile, the World Economic Forum estimates that 50% of employees will need reskilling by 2025 as the adoption of technology increases. So it is clear identifying and closing future skill gaps is going to be a top priority for organizations across industry sectors and regions. So what is a future skill? An important question because capturing actually starts with the mutual understanding and common language. So let's look at first skill versus competencies. We've always looked at competencies to reflect the critical behaviors relevant to succeed in a function, while skills are more functional learned abilities like Python, AI, ML, as we all speak. And we would see both competencies and skill under the umbrella of capabilities. Of late, we see a broader use of the word skill lately to also incorporate competencies or general abilities. And also in discussion with our clients, we hear that most people don't really care about the term, but very much care about what is required to succeed in the job. So if we are talking about future skills, we are talking about the capabilities required to succeed in a future business environment. With an average shelf life of skills being 4 to 7 years, skills are quite a blur and a fast moving object to capture. In past, what we've seen is that most organizations focused on competency models, values, because they are more stable and lasting. But as pretty much every organization is digitizing, we see an evolution of skills becoming more important, typically around tech, data, e-commerce, digital marketing, and many more. So all these are hard to capture with competency models, etc. Thus, organizations are starting to build skill libraries to properly capture skills and decentralize the topic, handing career ownership and learning to the employees, basically allowing the complexity to manage itself. The challenge we see here is that clients come to us, say that I know I have 75,000 data points on skills, but how does that help me to build the skills I need to succeed as a business? So it is very flexible, but rather aligned and disconnected. So while we are strong believers of career ownership, we see to drive up and reskilling to support the business, you need an aligned and targeted approach. So in order to capture and organize the complexity, what is important is to build a capability model, a model which allows you to capture skills and competencies in one single window and is aligned to the business strategy and requirements. So ensuring that the role profiles of all sorts can be captured in that one single model to make the comparable and allow to build HR instruments on that basis. So let's dig deep in. So how can organizations start their journey to ensure they have the right skills for the future and address any future skills gaps? The best way to do it is to run an environmental scan across the entire organization. From there, you'll be able to identify critical areas that have the toughest challenges, meaning areas with larger skill gaps. This is where you dive in to tackle the problems. However, don't start the work in isolation. This is what we are showing on the screen. The planning for anything you do in skill and workforce needs to start with the business strategy. That means understanding the revenue projection, where is the business going, what is different in the future from today, and how will that affect your workforce? Ultimately, it means you need to transform business strategy into skill leads. Compare this to skill availability, quantify gaps, and then address them. So moreover, it is important to understand the key ingredient for you to be successful when it comes to skill or workforce planning. You need to identify the right processes. Addressing skill gaps is not one-time project. It's an ongoing process that you need to kickstart. On top of the processes, you need data, both internal and external, and you need to leverage that data to show progress and business impact. Only if you do this, you'll be able to keep the process alive. Finally, in this day and age, you also need technology. Technology is really what differentiates today from the past. Technology will allow you to network all your decision makers around one workforce model and one skill model. So what essentially we are saying is everyone can take responsibility of their own success and growth, but there are several resources out there available to help. So we have one example where Aon Assessments team and Vodafone partnered a few years ago to develop a platform as a global solution to offer guidance to young people in finding digital jobs that are suited for and to provide better access to learning and employment opportunities. The tool is free and is called Vodafone Future Jobs Finder. If you want to go ahead and Google that. It is based on a scientific approach using psychometric tests. And once someone goes through the assessment, they get a report of their aptitude and interest, which are also mapped to digital job categories and gives them a better idea of what roles they would enjoy and be more suited for. In addition to that, the user also receives specific digital career recommendation and free learning tools. So this is just one example. We see plenty of other great examples of companies, government, and worker organization joining forces to offer global workforce reskilling opportunities. So they have a vested interest in doing this because yes, many have big hearts and care for the communities, but also it saves them a ton of money to reskill local and current employees. For example, the Delhi Skill and Entrepreneurship University, DSEU, recently launched 11 skill-based university courses for their citizens. So I believe that it was Harvard Business Review article that reported the cost of reskilling was roughly about $24,000 per person in the US. That compared to the money tied to hiring, onboarding, training, and then maybe tie-in severance of the cost was up to 6 times more to hire externally versus building from within. Yes, it depends on the type of role and organization, but it lends itself as a solid data point for employees and government to double down on reskilling. So in a way, when we talk about Vodafone, these are cases that directly benefit a specific organization and where we would connect the tools that we showed with a broader strategic workforce planning. So when you connect tools like that with jobs, with skills with jobs, you give people a good reason to use these tools and you can collect the data for planning processes. So you go from a very transactional place to a strategic place and a strategic place to a tactical place. That is ultimately what this process becomes. So when you pull all the data together, You can identify the skills you currently have or not have. Then you can infuse forecasting algorithms to see what the future will hold. And you can connect all of these two. A, first, to understand and quantify the skill and headcount gap in the future. And B, create an action plan strategy that might include hiring strategy, retention programs, redeployment initiative, learning and development, as well as other complex workforce strategy to get the needed skills in your organization. So to keep things real, let's look at some of the practical steps in understanding your future skill gap. So let's look at step one. We believe we can leverage data, which we can often like to do as a first step. So if we take the workforce data and plug in certain elements like skill profiles per role, remotability per role, automation risk, trend data, pay data, and also compare to the other organization, you can build a data-driven understanding on your opportunities and how they can compare to other peer organizations. Assessing everyone in an organization for all the skills is the ultimate dream of an assessment guy, but that's not feasible. So through role-based analysis, we can understand the prevalence of future relevant skills, the gap to own ambitions, the gap to the competition where you get the best bang for the buck of hiring certain skills. So we move on to the step number 2. The next step is one we mentioned here quite a bit. It is managing the complexity and structuring everything through a capability model. So you can have everything that captures and a profile per role, best built into job architecture to make things comparable and understand. Example, the proximity between roles, how big is the leap to switch between roles. Moving on, step 3 is defining career pathing and building offerings based upon skill-based workforce planning. This is targeting on the design of certain focus skills. Step 4, assessing and engaging people into the career paths. Step 5, measuring and tracking progress. So interesting question to ask here is how you evaluate, measure skills, and what are the outputs. There are different approaches to measure skills. I can cite a few examples over here. Measuring the skills of a person through actually assessing them through personality, cognitive abilities, knowledge tests, etc. Self-evaluation, letting people judge their own skills, increasing self-awareness in order to allow people to take their own responsibility. Peer evaluation, letting others validate a certain skill, for example, LinkedIn. And lastly, data gathering and approach based upon roles, data scraping across job profiles, LinkedIn profiles, and job description. Obviously, the first one is the most valid one, but that's not feasible from a long-term perspective. So I will move forward. So now that we've defined the processes, few things for us to ponder about. What makes a skill critical? Plus, how do we recognize it? How do you measure it? How do you know who has the potential to acquire it? Can it be trained? Firstly, what are critical? Let's address that. Firstly, what are the critical skills? There are a lot of definition for critical skills, but the one that works for me is if you think about two things. One element is the criticality. It is the important strategic achievement of your organization. The second element is the scarcity. So if something is important for you to have in the future and it is readily available, then I don't think so it is critical. A critical skill is something that is very scarce in the labor market and fundamentally important for your organizational future success. Now, how do you measure that? One thing you can do is to engage with your business leaders and see where your business is going. Once you understand that, you can transform these goals into skills that you're going to need. And that is how you measure the strategic element here. The scarcity element can be found researching labor market data that is readily available. Indeed, the labor market data can not only tell you about the scarcity, it can also tell you about the trends. At Aon, we have done this research using our Radford data. We've looked at the job growth, we looked at the pay premiums over time, and we looked at trends that are in 3 markets that bubbled up into critical technology skills. So one is data science in a broadest sense. Another area we can look around is data and cybersecurity. The third one around blockchain, no surprise there, cryptocurrency and other utilization of blockchains are highly in demand. I hope that gives you a little on how we define them and how do we measure them and some trends we are seeing around critical skills. So to give you an example, we have recently helped a global bank understand the future skill prevalence compared to their peers. So we approached it by leveraging a research-driven future capability framework that we built at Aon, allowing to map different skills and data sources into it. Thus, using the skills associated to all roles and leveraging the workforce data of client, we were able to build a score on each of these dimensions on our model. We therefore were able to take that and compare it to the peer organization and aspirational fintech organization as well, making upskilling comparable across organization and helping understand where the company is on the digitalization journey. Also, what we could do is link those numbers to locations, understand where the skill is built up, pay understanding and how they pay for skills. Really, it allowed us to leverage different data sources plugged into workforce data from a client to get full picture of the status quo and the gap to the desired state. What it also did, it also helped look at how certain functions are built up. Tech is not equaling tech, for example. We can look at how the tech functions are divided in terms of actually supporting the digitalization journey and then comparing it to other organizations. I hope you found this session interesting, and I hope the audience really enjoyed in terms of what we had to present. Do reach out to any of our Aon colleagues, and we are happy to provide more information. Have a good day. Thank you so much.